Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals On The Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, and this is episode 100, marking a full year since I've joined on with First Star, and we announced my arrival on July 18th with Dave Lapham, and that was a good time. And we told everyone to make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and do that, by the way, if you haven't yet. But it's been a great first year, to be honest with you. We've grown very well, and I've seen a lot of success, a lot of great interaction with you guys, which is what I am here for, and I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy the interaction I'm getting on the top 100 Greatest Bengals series, because we've reached the point, if you haven't seen it yet, there's 55 players ranked already, but we've reached a point in the series where I'm getting a lot of comments and feedback from people of, hey, this is my favorite player, or that's the guy I think of, or I remember this moment, or that team, or this era. And we're at the point where all of these players represent somebody's favorite player or somebody's very fond memory. And, as we get into we're going to start with 44. I think about this guy in particular because he may not represent that at all, which is going to be weird in the top 50, because I think most of these guys are going to fall in somebody's favorite. But I've never heard anybody say, this guy is my favorite player. And he stands out on this list, being ranked as high as he does, because he only spent 4 years in Cincinnati. But they were important 4 years in his career, because he went on to have a very long career and end up being the all-time leading receiver when he retired in yards and catches, and be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But as a former DB, and he didn't work out with Houston, went to Cincinnati for 4 years, he learned how to play receiver in Cincinnati before taking that to San Diego. Of course, at this point, I'm talking about wide receiver Charlie Joiner at number 44.
The Bengals struck first as number 18, Charlie Joiner, got place kicker Horst Muhlman within range on this 26-yard catch and step.
Anderson scored 1 touchdown and threw for 3 more, as the Bengals were never headed. Cincinnati's touchdown passes were scored by Charlie Joiner on a 65-yard play. When the Cincinnati margin got almost comfortable, the Bengals began to miscue. A spectacular reception by number 18, Charlie Joiner was...
The Cincinnati Bengals traded for Charlie Joiner midway through the 1972 season for one of the players we've already seen on this list, running back Paul Robinson. He would only play 4 years in Cincinnati, but in that time, he would sign a multi-year contract and also set the Bengals' then single-season receiving record with 200 receiving yards in 1975. Joiner would be traded to San Diego in 1976 for defensive end Coy Bacon, who we saw last episode. In all, Joiner would play in 39 games in Cincinnati, recording 82 catches for 1,463 yards and 6 touchdowns. He would also play in 2 playoff games, recording 5 catches for 93 yards and a score versus the Raiders in 1975.
That clicked when Charlie Joiner again got behind Tony Peters for the bomb. An interception gave Ken Anderson the ball in Oakland territory, and 2 plays later, Charlie Joiner was in the end zone. Now it was Oakland coach John Madden's turn to fret.
From 1973 to 75, the Bengals had a trio of receivers. We already had Chip Myers on this top 100 list. Now we have Charlie Joiner, and eventually we'll get to Isaac Curtis. Those 3, with Ken Anderson throwing them the ball, and good running backs. They always have had them, and a good offensive line. We've seen all of them now at this point. This offense was very, very good. And perhaps future Hall of Famer Charlie Joiner helped Isaac Curtis become what he was for this franchise. In all, Joiner would surpass 12,000 receiving yards on 750 catches in his Hall of Fame career. Joiner is a bit of a curveball there, coming in at 44, but when the system is mostly correct on this, I feel pretty good about it. And I mean, if we're saying who are the greatest players to ever put on Bengal stripes. Well, Charlie Joyner would probably be top 3. But again, we're factoring how long he played and his impact in Cincinnati. That drops him down into 44. Moving on, we're going to the second best tight end in Bengals history. We have a tight end we're going to get to really high on this list, someone that I think is very good. The second guy, though, played for a long, long time, spanning multiple really good teams and racking up yardage in a way that we will get to here. And if you figured it out already, of course you have. 43 on this list is Rodney Holman.
Anderson. Yeah. Complete. It goes to Rodney Holman, the rookie tight end out of Tulane, third-round draft pick. The first down is inside the 20-yard line.
This building, you're awful tough to stop here right now. Anderson takes a look. Down the middle, he makes a connection. Rodney Holman, a big tight end from Tulane.
Bengal quarterback Kenny Anderson came up with his best performance of the season, hitting on 16 of 20 passes for 3 touchdowns in the first half alone.
Esiason goes in the shotgun on second down. Moving pocket. There's that strong arm, and Eddie Brown fights for the ball, and it's taken down by his tight end.
That may be offensive pass interference, though.
Rodney Holman got the rebound, but we'll see what the flag is.
Esiason fakes. Touchdown for Rodney Holman.
Rodney Holman was a third-round pick, 82nd overall in the 1982 NFL Draft out of Tulane. He would spend 11 years in Cincinnati, playing in over 165 games. If we include also playoffs, he played in 6 of those as well. He started 120 games, recorded 318 receptions for 4,329 yards and 34 touchdowns. He would be a 3-time Pro Bowler, representing the Bengals in 1988, 89, and the 90 season.
To the left, he dumped it off to his tight end, Rodney Holman, and he had nothing but daylight to the end zone.
And you can see there is nobody near him. Good deception by the Bengals. That was a good design. Rodney Holman puts the Bengals up now, hopefully by the score of 10-0 if they make the extra.
Again, a beautiful fake by Esiason, and Holman is wide open. Can he get in? Touchdown, Cincinnati! Bill Bates coming on a blitz. Well, he doesn't force that one in. Touchdown as he finds Holman.
Play action, and it's the tight end Rodney Holman. Touchdown!
Holman would also make second-team All-Pro in those 3 seasons as well. Holman was known for being a good blocker with good speed after the catch. And I think the forgotten man in this offense in the late 80s into the 90s season, when you had so many weapons at wide receiver and at running back, I think defenses overlooked Holman and he would beat them consistently, especially in the red zone, off play action, leaking out of the backside of the play. Boomer Esiason found ways to get Rodney Holman the ball.
Rodney Holman who breaks 2 tackles at the 50-yard line. And Rodney Holman, who's had a silent night, has a noisy touchdown to give Cincinnati the lead again.
Riggs in motion. Boomer's going to go on throw. Drifts off to his left. Looks now. He flips it down. Touchdown, Rodney Holman.
Herman stands for Jennings. Now the play fake is the ball into the end zone. It's yet another Cincinnati touchdown. Sam Weitz's passing game has worked into perfection as the tight end Rodney Holman comes down with the ball. 8th touchdown catch of the year. He leads all NFL tight ends in TD receptions.
When Rodney Holman retired in 1996, he had played 213 NFL games, which was the second most played by a tight end in NFL history at that time, behind Pete Metzeler's 234. Holman's 318 receptions lead the Bengals as most ever by a tight end in franchise history. He is also 12th all-time on the receiving list. This includes wide receivers, by the way.
Rod Holman, who was coming around.
Esiason with a good play fake as usual, and a touchdown. Nobody handles the ball as well as Boomer. He sucks in the defense. Holman, who he flexed to the right at the line of scrimmage, gets free, and Cincinnati moves 80 yards to score.
They're getting mismatches offensively, and they are really exploiting them early.
Jim Brees kicks the extra point, and the Bengals take the opening kickoff 80 yards in 5 minutes and 19 seconds and lead 7-0.
Time they try something like that.
First and 10 outside of the 17. Esiason with all day this time. Now dumps it. He's got a man. Touchdown, Holman!
Still in the first quarter, Rodney Holman.
Nice coverage.
Yeah.
Nice coverage on both of these first two plays we saw.
7-7.
Esiason fakes it to Green. Finds Rodney Holman for the touchdown. 14-3 Bengals.
Klingler back to throw. Looking downfield, pretty good protection, throwing downfield,
yes.
Caught by Holman, touchdown. Number 82, Rodney Holman blocked Steve Cox's kick, and the Bengals recovered on the Cleveland 28. Exactly 1 minute remained. 1 minute for Boomer Esiason to lead his team to a tying touchdown.
That just leaves one tight end remaining on this list of the greatest 100 Bengals. Rodney Holman ranks very high for us, and I'm happy to see him here because I think he's an overlooked player in Bengals history that made a lot of plays, played for them for a long time, and had a very long and successful career. So, moving on to another guy, had a very long, successful career, but maybe should have been with the Bengals the whole time. We've got a few of these guys that I wish played their entire careers. We talked about this a couple times last episode. The Bengals are going to trade away our 42nd best player or greatest player in franchise history for a couple first-round picks and a second-round pick. So he was pretty good. But it was money and contract and legal battle stuff, so they shipped him off when it turned to that, and he ended up being in the Philadelphia Eagles Ring of Honor. I'm talking about linebacker Bill Bergey.
While an outstanding career at a major college is the ticket to the National Football League for many players, some take a less traveled road. Bill Bergey's path to the NFL led from tiny Pine Valley Central in the Cattaraugus County town of South Dayton through Arkansas State, where he achieved All-America status, to the expansion Cincinnati Bengals as a second-round pick in 1969. Bergey started at linebacker for the Bengals, and he was named to the AFL Pro Bowl roster. He played 5 seasons with Cincinnati and was a key component in the rapid rise of that team to playoff contender in the AFC.
Bill Bergey was a second-round pick from the Bengals in 1969. 31st overall out of Arkansas State. He would play for the Bengals from 1969 until they traded him away in 1974. 5 seasons in Cincinnati, 68 games played, 66 starts. Bergey would win 1969 AFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he is a member of the Bengals' 50th anniversary team. You can probably tell from these clips, but Bill Bergey was big. I mean, we're talking late 60s, early 70s. He's 6'4", 243 pounds, and he was nasty.
Bengal defense got into the interception act on the very next play, as number 66, Bill Bergey, took down a rebound in the end zone.
Bergey would play in 2 playoff games for the Bengals in 70 and 73. He'd record 9 interceptions and recover 6 fumbles in his 5 years in Cincinnati, while bringing a toughness and nastiness to that early 70s defense.
Bill Bergey, number 66, the middle linebacker. This is his 6th year with the team, one of the best in the game. Morris, he's met at the 13-yard line as he tried to burrow over his left guard. Bill Bergey, 66 there. Bill Bergey. And Sherman White also.
There's Bergey. We've talked about this man. Moves to the ball as well as any middle linebacker in football, and is becoming the premier man. Kuchenberg drives straight ahead. That's a tough block. He's blocking man-on-man against the middle linebacker, firing straight out.
Berge would play another 7 years in Philadelphia, 91 games, recording a bunch of great stats and all of that. Like I said, Ring of Honor for the Eagles, a 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro. But it was a contract dispute that ultimately led the Bengals to trade him to Philadelphia and got great compensation for him. But he was known as one of the best defenders in the league, one of the best linebackers in the league in an era where that was the premier position.
Philadelphia Eagles acquired his services in a big trade prior to the 1974 season. They gave up 2 first-round draft choices and a second-round choice to get him. Well, Berge flourished as an Eagle and inspired a defense that guided their rise from doormat to contender. He was named to the All-NFL team every year from 1974 to 1978.
Hard to see that and not think maybe Bill Berge, had he stayed in Cincinnati, would, I guaranteed, be a Ring of Honor player for the Bengals, if not already, probably pretty soon. So, you still get 5 years out of him. You get him in the top 50 here, and I think that he's worthy of remembering because he was a great NFL player for a long time. The next guy, maybe not considered a great player, but played for the Bengals for a very long time. And we've got 2 guys here to complete the set, complete the line that we've already assembled from the late 80s Super Bowl run. And this is going to finish it off here with 2 guys here on this episode. And they both spend their entire career with the Bengals, and they both play into the 90s, and things get rough then. We know that. But the first one here is a tackle that Willie Anderson, again, we talked about him last episode, but talks about this guy being a mentor when he got there. That's how long this guy played. And you probably already figured it out now, but it's offensive tackle, Joe Walter. Number 63 right there is Joe Walter, a Bengals 7th round pick in 1985 out of Texas Tech.
Their pass protection wasn't bad either, and they always gave that little extra effort which so often made the difference between success and failure.
And the Bengals have opened with
the following week, it was the offense's turn.
It's a 4-man rush, steps up in the pocket, looks, fires it upfield. It is caught by McGee. He's at the 50, down to the 40.
Joe Walter would spend his entire career in Cincinnati, spanning from 1985 to 1997. 166 games totaled, starting 136 and another 2 in the playoffs in 1990. At 6'7" and 290 plus pounds, Walter was a road grading run blocker, but nimble enough to be a pass protector and play right tackle and left tackle for the Bengals as needed, which wasn't often when Anthony Munoz was there in the 80s and early 90s. But after Munoz left, Walter did have to kick to left tackle a few times before going back to right tackle and protecting for Jeff Blake. So spanning from Boomer Esiason to Jeff Blake, which is also why you'll see Willie Anderson playing left tackle his rookie season before moving to right tackle, because Joe Walter was still effective that late in his career.
Cincinnati, this game scoreless. Opening drive of the Bengals over the top and into the end zone. Hickey was. Broke the plane.
Joe Walter blocked for a lot of players that are going to be on this top 100 list. Running backs, obviously Corey Dillon, James Brooks, Harold Green, Ickey Woods. Receivers, Eddie Brown, Isaac Curtis.
Colts showing the blitz. Blake back, fakes the hand. Off, sets to throw. Yes. In the middle of the field. Hits David Dunn in the 20. Oh. Dunn 15. 10. 1 yard line. David Dunn. Blake back to looks, pressure coming, fires, touchdown. Yes.
And I didn't forget Carl Pickens and Darnay Scott as well, plus the quarterbacks I mentioned earlier in this segment. But getting 12 years of right tackle play out of a 7th round pick, hats off to you, Joe Walter. Joe Walter checking in at 41st overall and the 9th highest offensive lineman on this list. Now, I teased another offensive lineman, but we got a few other players in front of him still to go. This next player is one of my favorite players, someone that I always thought was underrated. And when I did this formula, I was like, great, he ranks pretty highly. I'm happy to have that validated. I've cut clips of him for years. He is one of the guys that when I started making content 15, 16 years ago, was one of the players that played on the team, and I would routinely show off his greatness. So I'm happy to see him make this list. He comes in as the 4th highest corner in Bengals history. At number 40 is Leon Hall.
Third down and 4 for Pittsburgh. The Steelers at their own 13. 3 receivers bunched out to the right, including the dangerous tight end, Keith Miller. Now Miller will go in motion. Big Ben has it, drops back to the 5, looks, throws, intercepted by Leon Hall. He's to the 10, running back to the 5, going to the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals! Leon Hall read the throw for Heath Miller, stepped in front, picked it off, and took it into the end zone for the game's first score.
How about Leon Hall? Ben Roethlisberger suffering a pick 6, and the move that he made on Isaac Redman to take it to the pylon was incredible. And boy, Leon Hall undercuts the route of Heath Miller. How he didn't see Leon Hall, and Isaac Redman gets faked out. Good block at the 1-yard line by Chris Crocker, allowing him to get into the end zone. Outstanding play.
Arizona now faced with a 3rd and 20. Palmer fires, and that's going to be picked off at the 35-yard line. The pass intended for Fitzgerald, and Leon Hall intercepts for Cincinnati.
Leon Lastarza Hall, a corner out of Michigan, drafted in the 1st round, 18th overall in the 2007 draft. Leon Hall would play 9 years in Cincinnati, playing in 121 games, starting 105, and was a part of 6 playoff teams spanning from 2009 to 2015. Hall would accumulate 472 total tackles, 112 passes defensed, 5 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 27 interceptions, and 4 touchdowns, including the playoffs. Hall would make the Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team in 2007 and was a second-team All-Pro in 2009. Hall's career spans with many players on this list, but just in the cornerback room. Deltha O'Neal was here when he got here. Jonathan Joseph, Pac-Man Jones. Terrence Newman didn't make the list, but he was very close to it. He was just outside the top 110. Leon Hall in this cornerback room for his career was very, very strong. And Leon Hall was forced to kick inside and be a slot corner, which was thought of as lesser at the time, but PFF said that Leon Hall was the best slot corner in the league, and I agree.
Foles going to take a shot. Long ball on the sideline, intercepted. Thrown too short, and Leon Hall's got his first pick of the year, and he's going the other way with it. Leon Hall, big play for the Bengals defense.
And what made Hall so good inside was his intelligence and quickness, but his physicality. The dude was tough. I mean, not just physical in coverage, but as a run defender, as a tackler, as somebody that when you tried to run screens to his side of the field, it was a choice to have a negative play as an offense. I would beg offenses to please run screens to Leon Hall's side because he would defeat your blocker and he would make a play in the backfield routinely. The Bengals had a lot of tough guys in that era. We've seen Reggie Nelson already. We've seen Pac-Man Jones. We'll see Vontez Burfict. Ray Maluga we've seen. Domata Peko. We'll see Geno Atkins, Michael Johnson, Carlos Dunlap. That defense was stacked, and a lot of these guys made Pro Bowls. Leon Hall never did. But when you think about physicality and toughness, I think a lot of people just assumed it was Ray Maluga, Vontez Burfict, a little bit of Reggie Nelson, a little bit of George Iloka, right? But it was Leon Hall as the slot corner in Mike Zimmer's defense that was key to them being a strong, well-rounded team and that could create turnovers, be physical in the AFC North. I mean, they were sweeping the division in a 3-wide receiver league, and you didn't have to take Leon Hall off the field against heavy run teams because his tackling and physicality and intelligence set the tone for the defense.
Shaw drops back to pass on 3rd and 3. Fires toward the left side. Running it back to Leon Hall. It's a pick 6 for Leon Hall. His second in 3 weeks. The Bengals scored the Crimson touchdown for the 4th consecutive game, and they can take the lead with 9:30 left in the half.
I'll tell you what, he had a pick 6 against Pittsburgh, and now a pick 6 against the Texans. Leon Hall with great route recognition. took it to the house. A nice play by Leon Hall.
So with the offense doing absolutely nothing, the defense says, you need us to score? All right, we'll take care of it.
Leon Hall at 40, meaning we are now in the top 40. 39 as a quarterback, the fourth highest ranking quarterback on this list. And it's somebody that brought a lot of hope and fun back to the organization after a couple years of, not really feeling it, not really being sure. Then you get this guy out of nowhere. And yeah, it didn't last that long. It was a few years. But what was there made a lot of fans, kept a lot of fans, and made it exciting and gave us some good times. And some of maybe the funnest quarterback we've had is, after the Boomer era, until Joe Burrow, from Boomer to Burrow. Maybe I might be wrong on that, because we'll have a further conversation on quarterback number 3 on this list. But I'm talking number 39 here on the greatest 100 Bengals of all time. It's quarterback Jeff Blake.
And that's when it happened. Suddenly, balls that would have been dropped earlier in the season were being caught. The once dormant Cincinnati attack was now very much awake. Spurred on by the quarterback everyone had almost given up on, the Bengals ambushed the Cowboys as Blake parlayed his inaugural effort into an offensive revolution.
On first down, Pickens split far side. Scott nearest to us, and Blake has the ball back to throw. Going deep, down the middle of the field. He wants Scott. He's got him. Yes! Scott is going to go all the way for the touchdown. Darnay Scott.
First time wasn't a fluke. Blake stunned the Cowboys yet again.
Steps through pressure and throws deep. Down the middle of the field, wide open is Scott. He's got it, and he's in for the end zone, and the touchdown. Unbelievable. Again, Blake and Scott hook up.
While the scoreboard may have indicated otherwise, the real story of this game was the player who had injected life back into Cincinnati. The Bengals hope to expound upon what they accomplished in 1994, the year of the Flying Tigers.
Jeff Blake connected with David Dunn 3 times for 64 yards in an aerial attack on the goal line.
Trailing 6-0. Blake with the football, straight back to throw. Sets at the 23, fires down the middle of the field. Caught! Touchdown! Yes! James Hundum and the Bengals have tied the game.
Jeff Blake and company surged toward their 5th scoring rally in 8 games. To score another comeback meant literally holding on to the ball. In the second half, Cincinnati's time of possession was nearly 3 times that of Baltimore.
The Bengals come back and beat the Ravens.
Comeback performers led the team on the field. Quarterback Jeff Blake drove the offense back to the league's top 5 in scoring as he reignited his own game during the stretch run.
Jeff Blake was a 6th round pick in 1992 out of East Carolina, where he was selected by the New York Jets, 166th overall. Blake would spend 2 seasons in New York before moving on to the Bengals in 1994, where he would find himself and become who we knew as a Pro Bowl quarterback in 1995.
That the best way to track their offense was to simply look up.
Now he's got time. Now he throws downfield. He wants Pickens, who's caught up, and he makes the catch. He's in the end zone. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Unbelievable.
With Carl Pickens and Darnay Scott out wide, Jeff Blake was one of the best deep ball throwers of all time.
With his team at 1-7,
Here's the long ball. There's Pickens out there. Carl Pickens makes the play. He's heading in.
Play action. Blake has some time. Going deep. And that is caught.
Blake would spend 6 years in Cincinnati between 94 and 1999, playing in 75 games and throwing 93 touchdowns.
Jeff Blake back in there after the leg cramp. Blake, there's the long ball. He's got Darnay Scott.
The enemy, the lone setback, and here we go again. Pickens down the sidelines, makes the catch. Penalty flag down, he scored when they got the long ball going right
Jeff
there.
Blake ranks 5th all-time in Bengals passing yards with 15,134, and 6th with 93 touchdowns, just being surpassed recently by Joe Burrow. Jeff Blake, and if you're my age, you probably have fond memories, not just of, those 95 to 99 seasons and moments of the deep bombs and the excitement, but also if you played NFL Blitz around that time, if you're in my generation, the Bengals teams were fun, and a lot of it was because of Blake's ability to throw that ball downfield to Pickens and Scott. Now we're going to 38, and I teased another offensive lineman. This will complete our set completely from the late 80s Super Bowl run and start us into the 90s, as we'll have one more player from that offensive line, from the 90s offensive line, that'll bleed into the 2000s, obviously, later. But at 38 here is Bruce Kozierski. Wearing number 64, there is Bruce Kozierski, the 9th round pick in 1984 out of Holy Cross. He would play for the Bengals from 84 to 1995, mostly as a center, but he had versatility.
Their forte was zone blocking, blowing off the ball and controlling the man in front of them, giving Bengals ball carriers a choice of options.
Goes Dickey, left side, he is down, touchdown!
Like Joe Walter earlier, Bruce Kozierski would only play for the Bengals in his NFL career. 12 seasons, 172 games appeared, 137 starts between center, guard, and right tackle.
In the opening round of the playoffs, the Bengals ran the ball almost at will on the Seattle Seahawks.
Kozierski would be a part of the 88 and 90s Bengals playoff teams, 5 playoff games in total, including the Super Bowl in 88. A great fit for their wide zone running team because he was such a good athlete that could get out in front and pull and get to the second level and get to those reach blocks, but he also had enough power and strength to him to hold up wherever you needed him.
Come on, Deans, go down! Darryl Malone out, Troy Vincent in, and back to throw Klingler, looking deep, throwing deep, down the far side of the field. Scott is open, he's got it, touchdown!
Bruce Kozierski comes in at number 38 on the 100 Greatest Bengals. The final player on today's episode was one of the players that stood out to me when I started doing this series and started watching old games 2 years ago. This has been a project I started 2 years ago. And I was at first like, whoa, who is this jumping off the film? Not often when you watch old games do athletes jump off. I mean, we know the great names, we know these guys, but for a guy that only played a handful of years, it was shocking to me to go, whoa, this guy could have played in any era, to be honest with you. And he probably would have had a Ring of Honor career, if not more. Maybe a Hall of Famer if he would have had a 10, 12 plus year career in Cincinnati or anywhere, to be honest with you. And it wasn't until I looked at the stats and saw what those numbers looked like and saw how many Pro Bowls and All-Pro nods he was getting in his short career that I thought, man, this is one of the best players that ever wear Bengals stripes. And number 37 is defensive tackle Mike Reed.
At one tackle was Mike Reed, number 74. His great anticipation and amazing quickness often gets him by his blocker untouched and enables him to make tackle after tackle in his opponent's backfield. Reed is a 3-time All-Pro.
Mike Reid was a first-round selection for Cincinnati in the 1970 draft, 7th overall out of Penn State. He would play just 5 years in Cincinnati between 1970 and 1974, appearing in 64 games and starting 63. So how does a guy with that little resume make this list so high? Well, in those 5 years, he made 2 Pro Bowls, 1 first-team All-Pro, 1 second-team All-Pro. He's a member of the 40th anniversary team for the Bengals and the 50th anniversary team, as well as a member of the College Football Hall of Fame.
Many of those cheers were for the traditionally tough Cincinnati defense. Its hallmark was a ferocious pass rush that brought down enemy quarterbacks 43 times, a club record.
A super athlete with a crazy get-off and a bunch of moves to win with, Mike Reid recorded 5 sacks his rookie year and then followed it up with 12, 12, 13, and then 7 in his final year in 74. 49 unofficial sacks in 5 years. That is just insane production in a short amount of time for the 70s also. On the Bengals all-time list, Mike Reid is 6th, and everyone above him has played at least double the amount of games. 6th most sacks in half the time. When I was watching these old games, I really couldn't get over it. The guy was explosive, athletic, continued to hunt and continued to find the ball, continued to chase players down, running backs, quarterbacks. He was an absolute terrorizer. It's that 70s defense. A lot of good players on it, but Mike Reid, just raw talent, was the best.
In the past 2 games, All-Pro tackle Mike Reid had reached rival quarterbacks 8 times. After 5 games, the Bengals now led the league in defense.
So why did he only play 5 years in Cincinnati? Well, he retired after that. And Mike Reid was destined for great things. And it seemed like no matter what he did, because he went on to be an Grammy award-winning country music songwriter and had a probably more successful career there than he had in the 5 years with the Bengals, which was extremely good. And he would have been considered one of the best of all time, definitely Ring of Honor worthy in Cincinnati. So, Mike Reid at 37 on the 100 greatest Bengals list, but talent alone and impact and jump off the screen, maybe top 10, top 12. Very, very, very good player. And this has been Bengals on the Brain. We're going to get inside the top 30 on the next episode. I'm Joe Goodberry. The show is brought to you by First Star Logistics, and I'm heading down to Cincinnati next week to meet up with my First Star crew. And maybe we'll have some fun stuff for you guys and fun events and fun look behind the scenes. Can't wait to see the new studio. And until next time, Hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.